So my topic is on development of the EHS standards for organizations in India. How many of you here are from healthcare organizations? So many. That's great. And how many of you already have an EHR or EMR system? Okay, not many. That's good. So hopefully at the end of my talk you'd make a rethink of it, and then let's see where you come. So first I'll talk briefly about this, how the digital health scenario is evolving in our country and what's the role of standards for that, and then I'll talk about the roadmap for implementation. The National Digital Health Authority is being set up, and so if you look at this document, right now it's not available in the public domain. Earlier it was there. This is a pretty old document, almost 15 years old, but this is the first document for the IT infrastructure for health in India. And here also, if you see, right at the top, the thing which takes the biggest role is the standards. If you look at the bottom end, the legal framework is there, but most important and perhaps the most neglected one is the right bottom corner, that's the education, capacity building, change management. Often we tend to ignore that. Believe me, the technology part is the easiest. The processes and workflows are slightly more difficult, but it's the people that make or mar their success. So it's the people, unless they're aware of it, unless they're willing to change, unless they're owning the change, this is not going to succeed. And that way I think this conference provides a very good platform. The tagline is for the doctors, by the doctors, and it's been quite interactive, and I'm sure there would be more interactions throughout the day. And we can thrash out and find out from each other's experience where do we stand. If you look at the Digital India initiatives, this is again a document, it's a formal government document available in the public domain. So in the Digital India initiatives, there are basically 9 pillars, of which the 5th one is the e-Kranti, or the electronic delivery of services. In that, if you look at the technology for health or e-health, so the first thing is online medical consultation, second is online medical records. In fact, the moment we say online, we are not talking about standalone. We are now in a global village. So it's immaterial whether the patient is today in Ahmedabad, tomorrow maybe in Delhi, day after maybe in Singapore, or maybe in US somewhere, some city, could be San Diego, wherever. The person is mobile, and the record should be accessible everywhere. That's the most important thing. Pan-India Health Exchange, and I think throughout the day many speakers would have been talking about it time and again. So as far as the Health Information Exchange is concerned, we were supposed to be ready with it by 2015. It's already 2018, so we are 3 years late, but still the work is in progress. And very soon, I think the integrated health information platform will be available, from where you can pick and choose. You can pick and choose your standards compliant modules. You don't have to develop from scratch. So why do we need standards? In fact, if we really want to provide better and cost-effective patient care, we cannot do without exchanging healthcare information. So when we are talking about standard, what is it? The ability of 2 or more systems or components to exchange information. That means the structure has to be similar. There has to be syntactic interoperability. And to use the information, that means it must be meaningful. It should be semantically useful. That is semantic interoperability. just to give an example, suppose in a hospital you are coding the gender as 0 for male and 1 for female, and the other hospital does it just the opposite way, and there's a third hospital which does it in an entirely different way. How do we actually exchange this information? This is where you really need standards. When I'm saying a dog and you are hearing dog, but you are not thinking the same dog, as far as healthcare is concerned, when we are concerned about healthcare, this may mean a lot of difference. Those of you who are globetrotters, you have been seeing, we have been going across various countries. Earlier you had to carry lots of different adapters, then the universal adapter came. But now if you look at it, it's the USB charging point has become the most universal thing. Whether it's at the airports or in the metro rail coaches, everywhere you get USB charging points. When a doctor talks to another doctor or maybe to a pharmacist or other healthcare providers, then a lot of things is assumed and understood. But when a computer is involved, it's not the case. A computer is an idiot box. It does not do what I want it to do, it only does what I tell it to do. So unless I know how to use it, unless I know what I need it out from it, it won't give. So when we want to really put what the doctor is saying into actionable or understandable things by the machine, then it has to be put in a more structured manner. And for this, there are various standards. Various standards are, of course, for various different purposes. And you need not worry about it. And I think just after me, there would be the NRC team would be actually developing more on that. But if you look at it, the semantic and the structural standards, some of the examples are given there. Don't get lost in the names. Even the Ministry of Health has come out with a set of recommendations, and there is a total of 35 standards recommended there, but they're all for different purposes. And I'm not going into this thing in detail, but just to show that whatever standard is there, that would be applicable at different aspects, at different parts of the system that you are going to develop or you are going to buy. And why do we need standards? This is the answer actually. When you have just two systems to interface, one interface is enough. When it is 3, you would need 3. But as the number of systems grow, as the number of databases in your information system, as the number of systems within your information system grows, then the interface becomes unmanageable. The formula is n into n minus 1 by 2. So if you have 100 different databases talking to your system, then you need almost 5,000 interfaces, which is practically impossible to handle. And that is precisely why you need standards. If you look at the standards, essentially, it has to be bound by some identifier, and probably in our country it's the unique identifier or the Aadhaar that's going to become the unique identifier. But there are essentially 4 categories of standards. So if you look at it, the structure, and XML is almost universally used now for any transfer. I'll talk about the Integrated Health Information Platform that the ministry is developing. Then you have the terminology and the coding systems. I think all of you are familiar with the ICD system that is developed and recommended by the WHO, World Health Organization. So all countries have to report their epidemiological data, so statistical data for epidemiological purposes in the ICD format. But if you really want to get meaning, if you really want to dig deep into the clinical domain, if you want to develop clinical decision support systems, if you really want to use that, you need something like a clinical terminology system, and the recommended one for India is SNOMED-CT. India has been a country member for SNOMED-CT since March 2014. For information exchange, that is the content standards for clinical and administrative, HL7 is the de facto standard. For imaging, it's DICOM. And the other thing, again, which is not probably given much of an importance always, that's the security and privacy part. And somehow or other, I think the hackers are always ahead, whether we like it or not. But actually they are working overtime to make us appear fools. But despite that, we definitely need to have systems and checks in place so that security and integrity of the system is not breached. This is the document, and I would urge each of you to have a look at it. It's available in this from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare website or from the National Health Portal. You can get a link to the full document, the IIHR standards. This is the second edition. The first edition had come out in August 2013, and this came in December 2016. So just go through it. And as I said, there are about 35 standards for different purposes. And you can see for terminology, SNOMED-CT is the desirable one. How do you use SNOMED-CT? You can actually use it in various ways, and you don't have to start using it right from the beginning for all the possible ways. You can simply start with a code system for storing clinical information, or you can use it as an interface terminology or indexing system. And if you go for the common terminology, that would be great, but that may not be possible right from the beginning. But these are various ways you can go stepwise upwards. As I was saying, there are different standards. The problem with the different standards, the good thing is that there are so many standards. The bad thing is that they don't talk to each other. So like between the hospital information system and the radiology information system, the standard that is used is HL7. Whereas between your imaging machines, X-ray machines, MRI, whatever, CT scan, where you are using the images and the PACS, the picture archiving and communication system, there the standard which is used is DICOM. And HL7 and DICOM don't talk to each other because they are entirely different standards meant for different purposes. So if you want to get the information from HIS and RIS to PACS and so on, both ways, then obviously you need some broker. What is the broker? There's the standard, another standard integrating the health enterprise, IIHE. So they give you some profiles for particular things, whether it's cardiology, laboratory, radiology. If you look at the radiology profile, the scheduled workflow, so here it's a seamless integration. When you are putting the requisition, when the doctor puts a requisition from the clinical information system for having an X-ray or MRI or CT scan done for a patient, that goes to the RIS. From the RIS, it goes to the imaging PACS. The report comes back again through the RIS to the CIS. All this is seamless. As I said, they're using different standards. DICOM at one place, HL7 at another place. But if you're using something like a profile from IIHE, then you can have a seamless integration, and that's what we essentially need. So IIHR, don't look at it as a standalone system, but it's something which has to talk to different parts. Personal health records, I don't know how many of you were upstairs in the previous session going on there. There was a skit about doctors and patients. That was great. But patients and probably family members, caregivers, they're getting increasingly involved in the day-to-day management or treatment of patients, and for that, personal health records can be of great help. Again, the ministry is coming out with a personal health record management system. That's a My Health Record for India. It's yet to be launched, but if you can have a sneak peek at the National Health Portal. So as I was saying, if we really want to implement, what is it that's required? As you can look, is the technology or the tools part, which is the easiest part to deal with. The process or the workflow is the next more difficult part, but it's the people, the change management and the capacity building that will go into it. It's a long run process. It's not a one-time process. You have to go involve all the users, end users right from the beginning, preferably from the designing phase, planning phase, so that they own it. What is change management? I think all of you have heard the term and many of you know it very well. I'll give a very concrete example. How many of you have stayed near a place where a flyover is being built? Any of you have seen a flyover being built nearby where you stay? Anyone? Just one? No one else? Yeah, there are quite a few. So what's the purpose of a flyover? When it will be ready, the journey time would be lessened. When it is being built, what happens? There's a big mess. And definitely the journey time doesn't decrease for anyone. It increases a lot for everyone. It it is inevitable. Whenever you are trying to build a system, so you have to have the vision in mind. You have to tell everyone that, see, you are going to have a faster journey once this is complete. But till then, we are going to have a slower journey. We have to be prepared for that. And that's what change management is all about. You have to tell people that what are the problems going to come, how we can lessen that, how we can lessen the number of problems, how we can lessen the duration of the problems, so that the transition is slightly smoother. It can never be as smooth as we think, as we want. But if you are aware, yes, what's going to happen, that's inevitable. In the early 90s, when the railways booking system was undergoing computerization, the booking clerks would say, oh, it's all waste of time, we can do it much faster manually. Now no one can even think of it. So it takes time to change, and we need to know where we are going. If you try to say blindly, if it's thrust from top that it has to be done, that may not succeed. Ultimately, it may not be used. So if you look at implementation, and not just for Snow Made City, any part of it, so first you need a strategy in place. So how you're going to adapt, you have to plan for that. Then the technical part, it's a simple question, whether it's a buy or a build. Many big hospitals prefer to build. That means you have your own IT team, so you develop everything from scratch, de novo. Or you buy from a company, commercial over the shelf, So if you are going to buy, you need to be very clear about the specs, the specifications, how you are going to procure. If you are going to build, then you need to be very clear how you are going to design or develop it. It could be a mix. Whatever it is, it has to be planned well. Then only comes the deployment, use, with the user feedback. And as I said, if you can involve the end users right from the design phase, things are more likely to succeed. They're likely to own it. Yeah, this is what we wanted. I think in the earlier session, a pediatrician here was saying that whatever they are wanting, the system is not being provided. That's not the way to go. Unless whoever is giving the system is willing to agree to the requirements of the user, it will never be used, it will not succeed. This is another way of looking at it, Kotter's three-phased approach for managing this change. So from paperless to EHR, or EMR, if you want to go, current state to future state. Current state, if you look at the paper, and future state is the electronic. So first you need to create a climate for change. In the next phase, you need to engage and enable the organization. And then it comes to implementing and sustaining the changes. Please be very clear. Phase 3 is not phase 1. Unfortunately, most of the times whenever we decide, the management decides we need to go electronic or digital, start straight away implementing and sustaining changes. That will not work. Don't go to stage 3 if you don't go through stage 1 or 2. Unless you start at phase 1, and here, as you can see, all the things are there, people, process, technology, but mostly it applies to the people part. They need to know where they are going, how they are going, what would be the difficulties, how that can be reduced, and what would be the advantages when they reach. The National Health Policy 2017 has clearly said that the National Digital Authority is being set up to facilitate a smooth environment for digital health in India. So now it's a stated national policy. This is the integrated health information platform that is likely to be ready in another 6 months or so, and it will be cloud-based, Aadhaar enabled. There would be an health exchange or repository. Because health is a state subject in India, it's likely to be federated. If you look at the modules, different modules all are compliant to the standards recommended by the ministry, will be available at the platform. You can pick and choose. Of course, the other problem comes in, there are so many standards, just like you have VHS standards, there are M2M standards, machine-to-machine standards, and you'll hear a lot of things about wearables, Internet of Things, and so on. And then, of course, there are various other things for active assisted living or ambient assisted living, AAL, that is what's coming up. We talk about smart cities, smart infrastructure. All these are related, but we need to harmonize, because as I said, different standards are for different purposes. This is the EHR standards help desk at the National Health Portal. hospital. You can go there and have a look at it, and then also from the NRC, they also have a help desk and you can interact with them. It's not an easy job. It's not an overnight job. If we are planning to develop EHR in our systems, in our hospitals, whatever be the size of the hospital, we have to be very clear. We need to go ahead methodically. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.